Hello everybody, my name is KingStix. Let's go over some of the bigger changes coming up in patch 9.9. It should be dropping roughly 3 days from now. I already did a video on the upcoming patch 9.9, but heaps more changes got released after I dropped that video. So let's jump right into it. The first big change I want to address is a little bit concerning. Basically, they want to take away damage from Soraka Q and E and buff her healing slightly. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of this approach. By taking away her damage, it just turns her more into a pure healer champion, similar to Mercy, and it makes her much more boring to play as a Soraka player. If they feel like Soraka needs a nerf, I would much rather them nerf some of her healing aspects or maybe even nerf some of the items that she takes, rather than them taking away her damage, since that's one of the only fun things in her kit. Looking over the changes, they are increasing the cooldown of her Q substantially, almost doubling its initial cooldown from 5 seconds to 8 seconds at rank 1. The self-rejuvenation is going up by a decent amount, and the rejuvenation on an ally once you've procced your Q has gone up by a decent amount as well. The movement speed bonus on her Q is also getting a buff, while at the same time her E cooldown is getting lower, and the mana cost is being increased substantially at later ranks. The damage is also being lowered on her E by a whole lot at final rank, by 50 damage, going from 230 all the way down to 180. This is mainly going to affect Soraka's early game poke, especially with her Q cooldown going up so substantially, and in my opinion will force her into an even more constrained box. I do still think she'll be a very powerful champion, though just not as fun to play. Next up, we have Ekko. He's arguably one of the weakest AP assassins, and he's not very easy to play. His base AD is being increased by 3, and his E's mana cost is getting lowered substantially in later ranks. Is this going to be enough to make him pick or ban or top 10? Definitely not, but it is a decent quality of life buff for Ekko players. Ekko's main issue is right now is there's champions who just simply do his job better. For example, Ahri can hold wave against an Ekko with lots of wave clear, except she outscales Ekko quite a bit better, and you can argue that her ganks are a lot stronger when she is level 6 compared to an Ekko gank. The main issue with Ekko is his scalability, and the fact that he is a melee pusher puts him in constant threat of being ganked, and whenever you're being played in the mid lane, that is the easiest lane to gank. So unless Ekko got some big early game buffs to just stomp people, or some actual late game buffs, I can't really see Ekko even making it into the top 15. Right now, Hecarim is arguably the strongest jungle champion, and I think Riot is okay with that. They are hitting him with 2 nerfs on his E's minimum and maximum damage, but it is just so small. At level 1, it is the exact same, and then at level 2, it's just a 5 damage difference. This won't affect Hecarim's early game at all, since he always maxes his Q first. Obviously, this nerf is a joke, and if they don't nerf Conqueror or Hecarim directly, Hecarim's going to continue to be the top 1/2 jungle champion. I have no problem with Hecarim being strong. I think he is a very unique and aesthetically pleasing champion. My only beef is, if he's going to have that kind of speed and that kind of one-shot potential, he shouldn't be able to use Conqueror as a main keystone, since it allows him so much consistent ripping damage that lets him rip through squishies and tanks alike in no time. Darius is getting a decent buff on his Q. The base damage is going up by 10 at all ranks, which is a solid buff in the early game. He's also receiving a solid buff on the healing on his Q. This buff comes at a little bit to my surprise, since Darius is already so strong in solo Q and can make perfect use out of Conqueror, which is also OP, and particularly on Darius. This means Riot is trying to push Darius more towards the pro scene, since we don't see him much there and he can make some insane plays. Next up on the list, we have Maokai, who is currently not ranked as a jungler at all, and as a top laner, he is literally on the bottom of the list at rank 50. He is receiving a whopping 5 extra damage at rank 1 and then 25 extra damage at final rank on his Q. If they were to give his Q 25 more damage at level 1, this would actually be significant, but him getting that damage at rank 5 won't even pull Maokai up into the top 30 top laners. Trying to make tank top laners and tank junglers right now viable is a really awkward dance of balancing, since Conqueror is such a strong keystone that many top laners and junglers are abusing right now. Even if a jungle champion is objectively strong, they just can't compete with the power of Conqueror. Next up on our list, we have Morgana. The strength of her black shield is getting nerfed by 10 at level 1 and 50 at max rank. The cooldown is also being increased from 23 seconds at rank 1 to 26, and at max rank it will be 3 seconds longer as well. This may not make a lot of sense if you're in lower or mid elo, but in high elo right now, Morgana is 100% pick and ban. After this change, Morgana will still definitely be strong, but she will need to be more mindful of when she actually does use her E. Rek'sai is receiving several very mediocre nerfs. Right now, she is definitely the strongest jungler, especially in higher elo where people can truly abuse her early game. They are lowering her base AD by 1.5, and they're also lowering her AD scaling by 0.35. The Prey Seeker on her Q's cooldown is being increased at level 1 by 1, and at final rank it is being increased by 3. Overall, these 3 nerfs aren't even enough to knock Rek'Sai out of the top 3 strongest jungle champions right now, but it is enough to possibly knock her down in the top 2 or top 3 jungle champions instead of the top 1. Her E's damage is also getting reduced by 5 at all ranks. For the longest time, Volibear has been a completely useless champion no matter where you play him. He has received a variety of buffs over the seasons, typically just base stats, but even some slight ability changes. This one, in my opinion, is probably the most impactful so far. They are giving his W a massive attack speed bonus at all ranks. Currently on live servers, it is at 4%, and then at final rank, his W goes up to 20%. With this buff, it'll start out at 9%. That means for each stack, Volibear will gain 9% attack speed at level 1 instead of 4, meaning he'll have up to 27% extra attack speed instead of just 16. As a jungler, I can't see this making a significant difference, but as a top laner, this might etch him into the meta slightly. It's still hard to say though, because Volibear can't take proper use out of Conqueror and will be forced on an awkward keystone like Grass the Undying or possibly even Aftershock. Shen is receiving 2 buffs. The first one is his attack speed per level is being increased from 2 to 3, which is actually pretty solid. Also, his E is getting a decent buff on the bonus health. His damage is being increased from 12% to 15%. These are nice buffs, but once again, with how strong Conqueror is right now, these changes won't mean a whole lot since Shen simply can't go toe-to-toe with a Conqueror champion like Riven, Hecarim, Jax, or Renekton. Sylas is receiving a solid buff on his W, 10 damage at level 1 and 30 damage at final rank. This is very understandable since Sylas' scalability is questionable at best and his win rates are relatively low, even though he is super annoying to lane against. J4 is receiving some sizable nerfs, very understandable considering his vast shadow he is casting over other level 2 red buff ganking junglers such as Xin Zhao or Lee Sin. They are lowering J4's base HP from 571 to 570. Basically means nothing. They're just rounding the number down to a even pretty number. The mana is also being lowered in the same way. The mana regen is also being lowered in the same way. And the bigger nerf here is on his W. The bonus shield is being nerfed from 2% initially and 3% later on at later ranks, all the way down to just 1.5% of J4's max HP at all ranks per enemy champion. That is a nerf of 50% in the late game for his shield size pretty much. His E is also receiving a 1 second cooldown nerf going from 11 seconds to 12 seconds. J4 is still going to be a top 5 jungler after this. It's just going to peel away a little bit of his oppressiveness and allow junglers like Lee Sin and Xin Zhao start to creep in. Lissandra is receiving a solid buff. Riot realized they went too far and she's pretty much unplayable right now, especially with the addition of the Aftershock nerfs, which is the only thing making her viable. They're buffing the base damage at her Q at later ranks. It's a very small buff, rank 5 plus 20 damage. More importantly, they are buffing the AP ratio from 30% all the way up to 60%, which is extremely good for her mid and late game. After this buff drops in approximately 3 days from now, definitely expect to see more Lissandra. And finally, we have some Akali nerfs. She is insane in mid and higher elo at the moment. Very difficult to deal with. I mean, what was Riot thinking when they decided to give an assassin champion an AoE stun and give her an insane invisibility tool that doesn't allow turrets to see her unless she is within the turret's actual attack range. The extended duration on Akali's W is going down by 1 at all ranks. The cooldown is also being increased from 21 seconds at rank 1 all the way up to 25 seconds, which should give you a much longer window to try to gank and kill her since she typically does max her W last. I am personally really excited for this nerf. I feel like for them to truly balance Akali and make her a fun champion to play and also a balanced champion to play against, they really do need to take away the stun on her ultimate. And if they did that, they could easily bring back a lot of her sustain she used to have on her Qs. Those are just my thoughts though. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Which changes are you most and least excited about? I will read every single one. And that is going to wrap up this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. My name is KingStix. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.